Well, alrighty. Good morning, everyone. It's darn cold in here. I haven't turned on the heat yet. I'm doing my best not to turn on the heat yet, but it is cold in here. Um, there's Rocky. Don't know what you see there, but there he is if you can see him at all. He's quite the cat. Um, anyway, I guess this will be another rant or whatever. Um, yeah. The destruction of Western society. There's a topic for you right there. The destruction of Western society. Um, Now, currently in Canada and the United States, we have politicians in high places who are, well, to put it mildly, who are just awful. And they're definitely banging the final nails into the coffin of Western society. They're purposely taking down what's left of our social structures, of our institutions, and of our economy. They're doing all of that. But the thing is, these guys are like the sledgehammer wielding demolition crew that comes in and knocks down a house that's been deteriorating for 50 years. Some house that's been abandoned for 50 years. Nobody's looked after it. The elements have done their job on it. And now the demolition crew comes in and they're knocking it down. That's what those guys are. Now, in that case, the house needs to be knocked down because it's beyond repair. In the case of our society, though, these guys are the final parasites or whatever. You know, I mean, they're the final ones that are just in there eating away at what's left of the foundations and so on, and rusting out the columns and all the rest of it, and taking it down completely. That's their job. They're the demolition crew. And they're just the latest in a long line of people in high places that have been working at destroying Western societies. The process has been going on since the end of World War II. It actually has been going on since the late 1940s. It's picked up pace as time has gone by. It especially picked up pace around 30 years ago. Now, I want to make it clear this is not a defense of Justin Trudeau or Joe Biden. I can't stand either of them. I think they're just wicked, evil men. Chrystia Freeland and Camilla Harris, the same, wicked. It's funny, they both have these female sidekicks, and it's like they're all wicked. It's just terrible. I would sooner drag my naked ass across broken glass than shake the hand of Justin Trudeau. That's how much I dislike that man. So this is definitely not a defense of Justin Trudeau or of Joe Biden, who I have an equal amount of disdain for, or of either of their nasty female sidekicks. Chrystia Freeland, I'm sure, is just full of demonic entities. Like, she has a look about her. Even her face looks demonic. And all the twitching and stuff. Canadians need to learn that their behaviors are destroying the planet. Canadians need to hurt at the gas pump so that they can learn that their behaviors. I don't even own a car. My father gets after me because I don't own a car. Like, bug off. Just bug off, you nasty old witch, you. Really. Like, you can tell I do not like these people, so this is not a defense of them. But what I'm doing here is I'm pointing out that the process began a long time ago before these people were really in the picture. And now these people have come in and they're finishing it. They're giving us the coup de grace, basically, that shot to the head, just to make sure we don't survive the execution. That's their job. Anyway, by the way, Christia Freeland has 24-hour a day, 7-day a week access to a government paid for, taxpayer paid for limousine. If she flies to another city in Canada, she actually gets her driver to drive her limousine to the airport at that city to pick her up so that she can ride around in her own car with her own driver. The car's not in her name, and if you looked at the registration, it'd be registered to the government of Canada, I suppose. It'd be a federal government vehicle. But for her to preach to us, I don't have access to a paid for chauffeur driven limousine. I mean, if I don't own a vehicle, I don't drive. I don't go anywhere unless I can get there on my feet. So who is she to preach to me, to tell me I shouldn't have my truck and that I need to hurt at the gas pump so that I can know that my behavior is destroying the planet? Like, what kind of anyway, um like I say, definitely not a defense of those people. I really, I mean, if I ever saw Prime Minister Justin Trudeau in public, I'd probably be one of those guys you see in some viral videos that yells at him. It says, "You nasty piece of work, you, shame on you. You effing piece of garbage." Really, that would probably be me. And I know a few people have done that. That would be me. He tried to shake a guy's hand one time in public, and the guy rebuffed him and just said, "You're a piece of garbage. Like, don't even think that I'm gonna lower myself, to shake your hand. You pile of crap. You destroying our country." But here's the thing. Recently, we had a former prime minister pass away, Brian Mulroney. And Brian Mulroney was a smarmy bastard. And he was a conservative prime minister, too. So, I mean, we've had the country going downhill under both. It isn't just liberal politicians. The conservatives have done it, too. And the reason for that is it's a plan. It's an orchestrated plan. And so it doesn't matter which party the figurehead is representing. It's been in the works for a long, long time that this was going to happen, and they've all worked diligently to bring it about. And Brian Mulroney, he did more to hurt this country probably than any prime minister before him, at least in recent history. The NAFTA agreement that he signed, that took all our manufacturing away. That took the base of the economy. The manufacturing industries were the backbone of the Canadian economy. He took that away. It all went to third world countries because of him. The day after that agreement was signed, several big companies left Canada, announced they were closing down operations, they were moving to the third world. That is because of him. A lot of them moved to Mexico. But now Mexico even is getting too expensive for them, so they're moving over to, Liberia and places like that, Oh, just nasty. Anyway, he did that. He eliminated the manufacturer's sales tax and he put the GST in place instead, which shifted the tax burden to the poor. Because the thing is, now virtually every transaction is taxed. With the manufacturer's sales tax, only new items were taxed. If you bought a brand new refrigerator, you had to pay the manufacturer's sales tax on it. If you bought a used refrigerator, you didn't. Like, you could go to a used furniture place or a used appliance place and you could buy a used refrigerator. You didn't pay any sales tax on that, other than the provincial. You paid the provincial sales tax, I think, which at that time was 7%. Anyway, same if you bought a used couch or If you bought a used car, you just paid the provincial tax. You didn't pay the manufacturer's sales tax. Now, if you bought new stuff, then you paid the manufacturer's sales tax. But even then, from what I recall, and I may be wrong about this, but from what I remember, it's been gone now since the early 90s, but I believe there was a cap. Like, as long as you didn't spend over a certain amount, you didn't pay it. So if you bought a new refrigerator and that new refrigerator cost you $600 in 1986, you didn't pay the manufacturer's sales tax. If you bought a new refrigerator that cost you $2,000 in 1986, which would be a real top of the line, the Cadillac of refrigerators type deal, then you did pay the manufacturer's sales tax. So see, what he did is he shifted the tax burden to the poor people, is what he did. That's one thing. Then there's the North American Free Trade Agreement, which devastated our economy. That was the beginning of the end right there. Governments all over North America were instituting similar policies, shifting the tax burden to the people who could least afford it. Sending the manufacturing jobs out of their countries and over to the third world, to destroy the backbone of the economy. I mean, look, if you don't have a spine, you can't function. Really, you become a blob basically if you don't have a spine. The manufacturing industries were the spine. They were the backbone, the spine of our economies. They took the spine out of the economy. What was going to happen? It's like taking the foundation out from under a house. What's going to happen? The house is going to collapse. That's what's happening with our economies over the last 30 years. Then they brought in fentanyl. Fentanyl made it that you got people addicted to it. Now we have this awful mess, this fentanyl mess here, and then crime. They've made so crime then goes up. And in Canada, if you catch somebody robbing you, you're not allowed to defend your property. You go to prison for that here. If I came back here and I caught somebody, say, going through my camper, looking to see what they might steal, and I so much as threatened them, if I said, get the hell out of here, I'll kick your ass. If I got reported to the police for that, I would be charged for uttering a threat to cause bodily harm to that person who was here robbing me. And heaven help me if I actually hurt the person. He may get arrested for break and enter, but he'll do less time than I will. I'll be gone for a very long time. He'll go to prison and get out, and I'll still be in there. That's how crazy that's assuming he survives whatever I do to him. And if he doesn't survive whatever I do to him, well, then I go to prison for the rest of my life, because that would be murder. So, I mean, like I say, they made a whole bunch of people desperate, unemployable, and desperate. And they fed them drugs to get them addicted, to get them hooked on all that stuff. And then they pass laws to say you can't defend yourself, you can't defend your property. We're going to unleash all these dangerous, desperate people on you, and you can't do anything about it, or we'll throw you in prison. I mean, we can see how the breakdown of society happens. And even with all the stuff with the LGBTQ community and all that, again, that's breaking down society. It's breaking down the structures that have held society together. And see, what they'll do is, if you're somebody like me who recognizes it, they'll call you a homophobe. Believe me, I earned my stripes in the 1980s. Because back then, homosexuals were persecuted and they were targeted. There were people who would go and hunt them down and beat them. They used to call it queer hunting. And I'm not a homosexual. I'm not. I'm straight. Women don't like me, but still, I am straight. I'm not a homosexual. And my physical attraction is to women. But I still spoke up against that. And I was treated really badly for doing that. And I was accused of all sorts of evil. And I was told that maybe I needed a good trimming for thinking that way and so on. That was back in the mid 80s. Well, now I was working in a factory and there were some guys talking, we're going to go to Ottawa, we're going to go queer hunting on the weekend. And I said, why would you do that? That's stupid. You know, live and let live. They're not bothering you. Why would you bother them? Clearly not the words of a homophobic person. Clearly not the words of somebody who wants to hurt all the gay people, you know, or anything like that. But now what we have is we have these parades where half-naked people are going around performing, simulating sex acts on each other and putting dildos on display. And the people bring their kids down there to see that, which I am totally against. You know, I think if you bring your kids down there to see the likes of that, you're a child abuser. To me, that's no different than sitting your kids down in front of the TV and popping a pornographic video into the VCR. And hey, let's watch this, you know. Look what he's doing. Look what she's doing. Look what they're doing. You know? I mean, you wouldn't do that. Why would you take your kids down to watch it happening live in front of them? You know? I mean, most people would agree that to show your kids pornography would be an act of abuse. Yet they'll take their kids down there to watch essentially the same thing. So, and they couch it up in love, or where we're being loving. We're teaching our children to love, you know. We're teaching our children not to be jerks, not to be bullies. Okay, I think it's great to teach your children not to be bullies. It's too bad those men I worked with hadn't been taught that, you know. But back in the day, but here's the thing. Um, you don't have to do it by exposing your children to stuff like that, you know. Like, you teach your children not to be jerks and not to be bullies just by teaching them not to be jerks and not to be bullies. You do it in part by example. You don't be a jerk or a bully, and they see that you're not a jerk or a bully, and they'll emulate that. And the other thing you do is when you talk to them about these things, you basically let them know just in a general way, hey, you're going to come across people who are different than you. You're going to come across people who have different ideas than you do, who live differently than you do. um, you're going to come across people with various handicaps. You're going to come across people who look different in different ways, you know, and maybe they're different skin color. You're going to come across people who have deformities due to accidents or due just to birth defects or whatever. You're going to come across handicapped people. God loves them all. Don't don't pick on people over things that they can't help, you know, or don't pick on people even if they're different than you in some way, even if they could maybe choose to be more like you. Why should they have to choose to be more like you? You know, what makes you so great that they should choose to be more like you? They just you know, be yourself and be happy to be yourself and let them be themselves. As long as they're not actively interfering with you, it's none of your business. That's the way you know, or if they're, as long as they're not interfering with an innocent person who can't defend themselves, that's the other thing, then it's none of your business. So, you know, come to the defense of the defenseless. Don't be a cause of pain and suffering to others unless you're really put into a position where you have to be that because they are now putting you in peril in some way, or they're putting people who are defenseless in peril in some way, then maybe you do have to step up. And maybe you do have to cause some pain and suffering to those people. But the bottom line is this. That's how you teach children. You don't need to subject children to graphic sexuality to teach them not to hate people who are different than them. And again, it all comes back to, though, the breaking down of society, breaking down the economy, breaking down the nuclear family, mom, dad, and children. which was the foundation again of society for many years. It's always been the foundation of society until very recently. But see, it's the breaking down of that. It's the breaking down of the economy, the breaking down of the nuclear family, getting people hooked on drugs, getting the society. Look, our prime minister wants to legalize all street drugs now. Why do you think that is? That's not an act of compassion, you know. That's not an act of compassion on his part. That's part of the breaking down of society. Now, do I think we've always handled people who suffer from addictions properly? I don't. No, I don't think that throwing people who suffer from addictions into prison is necessarily the best thing for them. We probably should have better options. But then, a lot of the time, people who suffer from addictions need a wake up call. They actually need to be made uncomfortable before it kind of shocks them then into realizing that this is not what they want to be doing. And then they'll make the decision to do what they can to get away from that life. So sometimes prison does serve a positive purpose, even though it's a very negative thing. So it's sort of like we don't always handle it properly with prison, but then occasionally prison is the thing that's needed. But, you know, but we need to tailor maybe our responses to the individual and maybe give people more chances than we do, you know, and maybe sometimes that rude wake up call of the slamming doors is what they need, though, too. So there is that. But the bottom line is this. Society has been breaking down since the end of World War II, really. And in the last 30 years, they've accelerated the process. One of the things that they're doing is they're turning us against each other in various ways. They're dredging up all the old hatreds, all the old prejudices. They're, you know, even with the recent situation there with the scamdemic, turning the vaxxed against the unvaxxed and turning mass wearers and non-mass wearers against each other, you know, all that. Again, it's all divide and conquer. We're so busy fighting with each other that we're not fighting them. And, you know, Barack Obama was a part of that, of the thing. All our prime ministers were a part of the thing. Both George Bush's father and son were part of the thing. You know, I mean, some of our prime ministers in Canada were maybe less a part of it than others, but they were all a part of it to a degree. They wouldn't have been there if they weren't. And we've seen the slow deterioration taking place over, like I say, since World War II, but especially since the early 1990s. They accelerated the pace in the early 1990s. It's like they knew that this time in history was going to be pivotal, so they wanted to get to where they needed to be to do what the damage they were going to do as quickly as possible. So that's why they accelerated the pace. Anyway, bottom line is, these people we have in now, they're horrible. They're evil right to their very cores. They need to go. But we also don't want more of the same, which is probably what we're going to get. So, you know, changing the figurehead probably isn't going to work at this point. You know, it's like the old analogy of rearranging the deck chairs on the Titanic. They purposely run us into an iceberg, and now they're going down. Now we're going down, and the people we have in charge now are actually down in the hull of the ship drilling holes in order to make the water come in even quicker so we can go down faster. That's what's happening. Anyway, I don't know what we're going to do to change that. I think we're going to have to start working together as people and more, and not allowing ourselves to be divided along all these different lines that we've been divided along by these other people. And I think we're going to have to start being disobedient when laws are passed that are unjust. I think we're going to have to stop cooperating You know, I think we're going to have to really just, as a people, we're going to have to be cohesive. And we're going to have to get together and say, enough already, we're not doing this anymore. And, I'm not going to hate that guy over there for whatever reason because you tell me he's my enemy because he won't do this or he won't do that or because he's this way or that way. And me and him are going to get together and we're going to go against you because you're the one who's hurting us and we're both suffering. He's paying just as much for food and gas and heat and everything else as I am. So he's not my enemy. He's suffering as much as I am. He's not my enemy. You're the one imposing this on both of us. You're my enemy. And I think that's the attitude we're going to have. We got to stop letting these people manipulate us. Anyway, that's it. I hope you're all doing well. Like I say, it's a bright day, but it's cold. I think I am going to break down and turn on the heat soon because my fingers are freezing. I can bear, it's just awful. The cold is unbelievable. So I think I am going to turn on the big buddy over there very soon. I got the buddy and the Berkey and the bug. The bug is on the Berkey, and I got the buddy there too, the big buddy heater. So there you go. I got the bug, the Berkey, and the buddy. All right, we'll talk to you later.